Well, welcome everyone. And gosh, another week already for CBUS Roundball Weekly. Kevin Rao and the Hall of Famer Ray Corbett today. And Ray, we got a lot. They were coming down the stretch here, my man. We had the girls draw, boys coming up. There's a lot of stuff going on.
It's an interesting time of the year for all coaches. And, if you're one of those middle of the road teams and then all of a sudden you go into the draw and you get a great draw, it gives you a little shot of energy. You got something to play for possibly. And so you can see a little bit of more energy at practice. Coaches have a little bounce to the step. And so to have a coach come in from Upper Arlington, John Wanke, who's done a phenomenal job. The number one seeded team in Central Ohio D1. And just getting his insight into the decisions he made is pretty special.
And he was a longtime assistant with Tim Casey there on the boys' side, now coaching the girls, and just a great guy to talk to. Look forward to that conversation. And, we'll talk a lot about girls. In fact, our last segment today, you're going to break down the brackets a little bit because it's that weird new world of 7 divisions, 5 district finalists coming out of D1, for example, one of which may be the Upper Arlington Golden Bears. We'll talk to Coach Wanke about that, but we'll also talk about the boys as they get ready for their draw next week. Zach Fleer, our weekly segment with Zach of 270 Hoops, and what we might anticipate going into this weekend. So we got a lot to talk about.
Good time of the year. Fun stuff.
It is. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will talk to the head coach of the girls squad at Upper Arlington, John Wanke. We'll do it right after this. Thanks to Just Hoops for sponsoring our show today. With facilities in Lewis Center in Dublin, you can level up your game today on 22 different hoops. In February, Just Hoops introduces the all-new Class Pass. It's a structure that allows more classes, more flexibility, more opportunity, and more development. No hidden fees or long-term commitment. Grab your Class Pass and join the classes that work for you. Learn more at justhoopscolumbus.com. Joining us now, we're very lucky to have from the Upper Arlington girls basketball squad, John Wanke. And hey, Coach, exciting time for you guys as we get down to it. I know there's been a lot going on today for you, but before we get going, just tell everybody, and before Ray gets those hard-hitting questions going, tell us, everybody, a little bit about your background and how you ended up at UA.
Yeah, well, thank you. And Kevin, it's great to see you. And Ray, certainly great to see you. And thank you for your coverage of local sports. And thanks for all that you two fellas do. This is my 4th year leading the girls basketball program here at Upper Arlington. In the previous 11, I was actually on Coach Casey's staff on the boys' side. And I served in a variety of roles, actually started in the middle school level and ultimately worked my way up to be one of his varsity assistants. So I was incredibly fortunate and blessed to have the opportunity to do that. My wife and I and our family, we've been in Columbus now for about 16 years. I'm a native of Dayton, Ohio. My wife's actually from Cincinnati, Ohio. And we've been fortunate to live, all across the country. We lived in Chicago for many years, and I served a stint out in Seattle when I was with Microsoft. And so, our path has taken us multiple places, but Columbus is home, and we've certainly enjoyed every step here in Upper Arlington.
Coach, I got to ask you now that, and again, not knowing your background totally, I've known you for quite a while, but how do you think being an assistant at the lower levels has impacted your style as a head coach?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think, anyone in any particular field benefits from being exposed to different approaches and different philosophies, different teaching principles, different coaching styles. And, what I think, you ultimately do is it shapes and molds you into ultimately, hopefully improving and up-leveling and becoming more well-rounded. But I think what's most important is that you still always stay true to your authentic self. So I've been very fortunate, Coach, to, play for Joe Petroselli at Kettering Alter. I think, Petro is now the 2nd or 3rd winningest coach in the state of Ohio. And he was just a fantastic coach, even a better person. But, Coach Petro surrounded himself with great coaches. Eric Holter, who's now the head coach there, is probably one of, if not my closest friends. He and I talk regularly on a weekly basis. And so, being exposed to Coach Coulter and Coach Petroselli, Coach Ralph, and then, having a short stint at Miami of Ohio and having a chance to see, Coach Whitford and Coach Coles and that whole group. All of those coaches in a way, I think, and hopefully you guys agree, shape you a little bit. And, if you're a constant learner, it ultimately, hopefully, you're just improving and getting better if you're applying that growth mindset. So all of those coaches have really helped me, not only as a coach, but as a person, as a father, as a husband, and to hopefully, being the person I am today.
I echo your thoughts there. And then, one of the things that I started as a freshman, assistant freshman coach, did that for a year. Then when I got my first job as a teacher / coach, I was out Jonathan Alder in 79-80, and I was moved right to the JV level. But I always thought it was fortunate that I started at a lower level, and I don't think people realize the importance of the lower level staff, and I know as a younger coach, I wanted to move up that ladder as quick as possible. But, I do remember feeling pretty good about one year I was at Worley. And again, we went to the Final Four 3 years in a row down there. But one year I was down there coaching JVs, and I had a boy who was about 6'1". And when this young man played, we were a much better team. But I also had a 6'6" kid that was going to be important down the line, much more important than 6'1". So the question is, do you sacrifice your wins on Friday night so that you feel good about yourself, or do you sacrifice so that the program is going to be better off in the long run? And again, I'm not putting a halo on me, believe me, because I know I did a lot of dumb things as well. But that was one that I did that I felt really good, because this young man ended up being our starting center the first year we won the state. And I thought, you know what, I did the right thing. I felt I had a lot of pride in doing that. And that's what, if you can get a staff, if you're there for long enough where they can see, hey, if you sacrifice for me, the program's going to be in better shape because of it. Then that's a beautiful thing. And starting like you did at a lower level, I would think would be something that you would have an easy time, or an easier time maybe convincing your staff of that.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, a coach, I mean, when you're down on the floor, everyone in the stands typically has the answer. And what I've really enjoyed at coaching at all levels, whether it's my 5th grade son or my 7th grade daughter or my 3rd grade daughter, I've really never cared too much about the level. I've just really enjoyed the experience of trying to form the bonds and form a culture and develop young people and see them improve and progress and build confidence. And that's really always been, for me, I think, what's most important. I just feel super fortunate and blessed to be able to do it and to play a small part. So for me, there's human natures that want to go from 0 to 60 very quickly. But I agree with you. I think if you're pragmatic and deliberate in your coaching career and not skipping steps and learning every step of the way, it's certainly going to prepare you much better for when you actually are the varsity coach. And, you have various pressures. Some come with basketball. A lot of it come outside of basketball. And it hopefully makes you, the best version of yourself you can be.
Hey, let me ask you, going from boys to girls, and, we often ask this question and get a lot of varied answers to it, is how much of what you did as a boys assistant did you take into your head coaching of the girls team there?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've got that question a lot, and it's a tough, nuanced answer. It really is, because I know Coach Corbett's had sons and daughters, and I have a son and 2 daughters.
And just so you know, I have 4, but I had twins, boy and a girl. So I could do a direct comparison at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so here's, I read a handful of books, and one of the best books was from the UNC women's soccer coach. And, what I ultimately kind of have pivoted around, and I think this is a good analogy, is typically at the end of a game, if a boys team of mine were to lose, at times a boy could maybe sit there and think to themselves, man, if Coach Corbett would have played better, we would have won. And what I have found kind of on the girls' side is in that same situation, I'm thinking to myself as a girl, had I played better, we would have won. And so if you can kind of tap into that psychology, I think on the girls' side, man, I'll tell you, they'll run through walls for you. And you can really build a hell of a culture where people very much so are team first. We have a saying in our program, one of our program values is to be altruistic, to have that altruism to you. And, I think our team in particular has really embodied that. And so I think that's probably, Kevin, that's one of the best examples I can give in terms of the differences, the X's and O's and those type, those come and go. But if you can tap into that in particular, I think you can really make strides.
So we're going to move towards your day-to-day. All right. The number one seed in this year's district. So congratulations. I'm not
Thank
sure
you.
the last time that the Golden Bears had that kind of respect and seeding. And I know it's computerized. So this year, for those who don't know, and I think that a lot of people probably are aware that there are some serious changes. But this year, divisions 1 and 2 in the state of Ohio were split somewhat. Now, instead of having last year, they had 198 teams for Division 1. This year, there's 64 in Division 1 and 2. This year, we have 7 versus 4 divisions. So I'm not saying it's watered down, but again, divisions 2, 3, and 4 last year had 200 teams in it, 201 to be exact, whereas this year we're looking at about 134. So the numbers have shrunk considerably. This year, unlike ever in the past, and you took advantage of it, I see, we have 5 district champions. So it would be possible for the Bears, if they were to win the district, get through the regional, to play a Central Ohio team in the Final Four.
Yeah.
Which is, hey, you know what? If you're loaded, that's a great thing. So let's talk first about your seeded 1. How was your seed determined?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. It's based on an RPI rating. It's a computerized system. And honestly, if I look at the teams and how they were rated, you could make an argument here or there. But directionally, I think the computer gets it pretty good. They get it right for the most part. So the one thing I'm not crazy about is, and you all know this, there's a lot of showcase games now and a lot of out of town, out of state games that we all play. And so a win, even against a really top quality opponent, is viewed as a Division 4 win. So that's the one thing I think that skews it a little bit. You look at a team like Pick Central. Pick Central was ranked 5th. I can assure you they're not the fifth best team in Central Ohio.
Right.
So I think that's the one discrepancy that I see. But on the whole, I think it's fine. You're right too about being the 1 seed. We're incredibly humbled by it, but it gave us some options, and there was many trains of thought. Coach, I know you and I even spoke a little bit about this last week. I talked to a handful of other head coaches in terms of what would you do in this situation, and what we ultimately decided is that we passed through the first 4 picks. And so we got the chips on the table, and then from there made a call. And really what we were trying to do is to put ourselves in the best position to certainly win a district, but then to ultimately, I think, have an opportunity to perhaps even come out of the regional. And the teams coming out of Southwest Ohio are really good. I know that area obviously well grown up in Dayton, but I just think matchup-wise, I think perhaps maybe we match up against that type of team, that style of team a little bit better. And you're exactly right. If all things go well, we could be seeing a Central Ohio team in the state semis.
Let me ask you, before we get a little bit further down the road there, just for people that have not seen the Golden Bears play, talk a little bit about what got you to that number 1 seed. What would we look for if we saw your team for the first time? What would you like us to notice?
Well, I mean, hopefully, I hope you guys notice a team that does all the little things. We have a saying in our program is to play to inspire. And, I take great pride when people I don't know leave the gym and come up to me and say, man, your kids play hard. So, first and foremost, I want, you guys to see a team that has a maniacal attention to detail and is really striving for excellence on the floor. I want you to see a team that is team first in every way. We take great pride if one of our teammates are on the floor, we have four surrounding them. Someone subs out, everyone stands up and lets them know, hey, you did a nice job. And so we really try and embody that team first mindset. And I think our kids have gravitated to that. And then hopefully you see a team that's really led by players and not coaches. In my experience, the teams that where the coach talks lead, a lot of times I say, I don't really want when you come into our practice for you really to even know who the head coach is. If I'm doing the things the right way and I'm empowering and delegating with our assistant coaches and our players feel responsibility and we have that players coaching players mentality, that's really kind of what we're after. So, a team that's led by our players, a team that's very much so team first, a team that is not being outcompeted and is really, working hard, and a team that is relentless for 32 minutes. And so that's kind of us in a nutshell, Kevin. We're really blessed to have a marquee player in Elizabeth Hunt. She's a junior. She just eclipsed 1,000 points for us. She's had one heck of a career so far, and she's only going to continue to get better. She's getting some mid to kind of high major interest at the D1 level. And then we've surrounded her with really good players, really good shooters, kids with good habits and, can handle ball, handle the pressure. And so, yeah, that's I think our team in a nutshell.
I would think that you guys would be, based on your being on the Tim Casey staff, you might emphasize defense just a bit.
Yeah, a little bit. That's a little bit of a staple.
Says it's that you've done a great job of instilling that belief in defense.
We have, Coach. I appreciate you saying that because I know your background too, and that's one of those areas where you just know, we're not going to outscore top elite, teams. We're just not going to. So we're going to have to figure out ways to stay in the game, and I think we've been able to do that. Our schedule this year, has been brutal. I mean, next level, kind of that Tom Izzo approach, and so we've been able to hold our opponents on average to 32 points a game, which I'm really, really proud of. And we have that consecutive stop mindset. Our kids are happy with one stop, but they're not happy rather with one stop. And certainly they're not happy with two stops. We have that 3-stop consecutive mindset, and it's kind of gotten us to where we're at. And we're also, I think, a pretty good rebounding team, and that's helped us too. So, you do those two things well, what they say, defense wins championships. I'm not so sure that's true. I think great rebounding teams win championships. Really, really strong defensive teams put you in a position to win championships.
Yeah. So let's go back to our draw. So you're number one. Now, Central Ohio, and I think there are districts throughout the state where, based on your seed, they place you automatically on the draw sheet. That's not the case in Central Ohio, which is sort of interesting how the Ohio High School allows different areas of the state to do their own thing. Now, sometimes I think that it's best that they do that for some of us coaches because our level of education is such and intelligence, all the help we can. If I'm the fourth seed, I know I'm going to the fourth spot. Gone are the days of being able to walk. Well, I guess not Central Ohio where you could walk in there. Were there any surprises today? Again, you took the fifth, you took 4 passes. I'm sure that when you took those passes, there's some eyebrows that went up. And
I think,
once that really went up.
So I think if you called Coach Taylor at Grove City, he'd probably, be swearing under his breath a bit about us going into the same district bracket he was in. And It certainly wasn't an intentional play. I mean, we weren't targeting Grove City, but I was looking at it more through the lens of getting out of the regional, or perhaps our best opportunity to get out of the regional. I think he probably was too. So that's maybe one where you have a 3 seed in Grove City and us in the same district. Reynoldsburg also came into our district, and they played us pretty well when we had a chance to play them. Yeah, and they're very talented. So, they'll play Grove City in that district semi game. And I think they just beat Grove City, if I'm not mistaken, by 1 on Friday night. So that'll be
by Hilliard Davidson first.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So that'll be a hell of a district semi game. Those two teams, Grove City and in Reynoldsburg. And then, you have, I think, Jerome and Darby and Berlin, I think they're in the same district. You have a really good Newark team that's playing very good basketball, and they'll be playing likely Liberty coming out of the districts. So, it's Central Ohio basketball is really good right now. And it's going to be very interesting to see how things, unfold across these 5 districts.
Now, are your girls healthy at this time of the year?
Well, I'll tell you, we weren't healthy last week. That flu has been going around, and I feel like everyone on our team caught it. No excuses, of course, but I certainly don't feel like we were at 100% going into Friday's game. I certainly didn't mention it or say anything going in, but because the Liberty team played really well. But for the most part, we're healthy physically, and I think once this flu season maybe subsides, hopefully we'll be back to 100% at full strength.
What do you want to do coming down the stretch here? What are you guys looking to work on to get ready?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things Kevin and I did is, we really tried to. We had 5 games in 8 days, and now we have 3 in 19. And I think this is really going to give us an opportunity to refine some things. I mean,
That's a lot of practice, man.
A lot of practice, at this time of year, I don't, Coach Corbett will probably be surprised to know I don't, we don't practice, hour and 20 minutes, hour and 25 minutes, but it's very intentional and it's very, very focused on areas that I think are opportunities for us to really up-level and improve. And so we'll mix some film in with some, reinforcement at practice. We'll get a lot of shots up. We'll refine some execution, put in some new wrinkles here and there. But, at this time of year, I feel like foundationally you are who you are. And so a lot of it now is just about continuing to refine and continuing to put some polish on the shoes per se. So that'll be the plan for the next 2 or so weeks. We play Olentangy Orange on Friday, who gave us a great game the first time around. And then we end with Dublin Coffin, who's always really good and a good rival of ours. So the next 2 weeks are going to be very important. And then that will launch us into the tournament. We'll see how things go.
Yeah.
Let's see here, Mr. Kevin. We've got our figure. I mean, we've figured it out in terms of how his draw went.
Yeah.
He's healthy.
What do you guys think of the draw? I mean, you've had a chance to review it a little bit. What are your thoughts?
Well, let me just say this, because Ray will be more specific. But for me, it's just interesting the way this has divided out and given teams a chance, for example, to go right to the district final. Because you get so programmed in one way of thinking and all the steps to get where you're going. And now this year just changed that whole calculus. So I think it's going to take a while for, especially somebody like me looking from outside, to get my head around it and try to understand what all the coaches were doing to get where they wanted to go, right?
Right. I think you're right. I mean, I know for the last however many years, leading up to this year, the goal was always to get out of the district. Right. And last year, we had to win 3 games to get to the district final. Well, this year, to your point, we have to win 1 game to get to the district final. So our calculus changed a little bit. And it wasn't so much about the district, but it was, how do you get out of the region?
Yeah. So the last game is 1 more move, right?
Exactly right. So, for us, we have to win 3 games to get out of the regional, which is exactly analogous to winning 3 games last year to get out of the district. And so our calculus changed a little bit. I'm sure I'll be 100% wrong about it. And then we'll have to figure it out next year and put a new strategy in place. But we're learning on the fly, as are the other coaches, and we'll see how things go.
Now, I will say this, and this is just through the years, things that I wanted to stay away from. And I have no idea what your opponents have on their roster. Okay. One thing I didn't want to do is to take my first round game be a team that had already won a game. All right. So I'm playing a winner of a rat tail. Never felt good about that because I think the tournament's a different animal. First of all, and on top of that, so you're playing a team that's already feeling a little bit more comfortable, not maybe more confident, but more comfortable in their surroundings than you are, which is natural. Yep. So that was so when I look at yours, I like the fact that you're playing from the start, a Westland team that's playing from the start. Both of you playing your first games. Also, I like the fact, and who knows whether or not this will pan out, but if you happen to play Grove City or Reelsburg, whatever, they're coming to your place, you know, and so you get that, correct? Or is that a district?
No, so the wrestling game, Coach, will be at home, and then we'll play at the Expo in the district.
You're going to the fairgrounds?
The fairgrounds, yep.
Well, in that case, there's nothing about your draw I like. I mean, you weren't coaching when the fairgrounds.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah, I was. Yeah. I mean, that place
around here?
It's cavernous and hard to shoot, and the depth perception and the whole nine yards.
I never once said that to any of my teams, even though I'd walk in there just like putting blindfold on because we were going to go 0 for our first 30 from the jump.
Coach, I'm using reverse psychology.
This is what they say. Right? You might be able to see if you could pick up a practice at like a Capitol or an Otterbein where their background is not normal, you know, and so you find a rim that's out in the middle, you know, maybe go down to the Scioto and put a rim with no background and get used to shooting. Oh, I forgot dead spots and the trip. Here's another little nugget for you, Coach. The trip from your layup lines in pregame, like everybody goes through pregame, about halfway we go in, take our tops, whatever, warm-ups are all, everybody goes to the bathroom, we speak and all that and go out, right? You do that now, and you got a 20-minute warm-up period. When you come back out, the buzzer's going off. Okay?
That is true.
That trip isn't the same as that little UA gymnasium. It is 1.5 miles to go from one to the other.
I know. I almost feel like the locker rooms at the Columbus Crew Stadium, and then you gotta walk across the parking lot.
I hope they're going to be in the same condition as the Crew Stadium. All right, I can imagine what's going to be found. I feel sorry for those girls because there could be things in there that have not been seen by human eyes for years.
I know. It's good for them, man. You got to get out of your comfort zone a little bit.
You know, Ray, the fairgrounds might actually hire people to take care of some of that, you know? I mean,
well, that's something they didn't do 20 years ago.
Well, I'm just saying, times are different. You never know.
Yeah. What was the joke? If you didn't see a mouse in the locker room, you weren't having the same, you know, experience that the rest of us had. I have been told it's been upgraded. So what that means, I have no idea. But I have been told
it's a neat experience. It is. I love the place, especially back in the day when, you know, you could go there all day Saturday and, you know, be surrounded by fellow coaches, and you just spend the whole day just having a great time talking to guys.
No, I'm thrilled. Ohio Dominican served us well. I enjoyed that for 3 years, but it's great. I think this is just a cool environment. I think our kids are gonna, you know, embrace it. And, you know, if we're fortunate enough to get out of the district, we then shoot down to Southwest Ohio. So we would play then the regional games down in Fairborn, Ohio. That's built a brand new high school.
Experience there. I've gotten beat there as badly as anywhere else. Great, but it is a great facility. It is a facility. It's a great place to lose. Okay?
Well, I hate to end it on that note, but hey, I did not add my congratulations to you, Coach, because again, being the number one seed and doing all that you've done this year, and wow, what a great season! No matter what happens, I know we'll look forward to talking to you down the road and continued success. And I'm glad you have a chance to coach them up and practice a little bit before you get there.
I appreciate it, man. Now, look, you guys know this. It takes a village, and you know we're blessed with great continuity. We've only had turnover with one coach in my 4 years, so we have great assistant coaches. We have great players. We have great parents, great boosters, great administration. So it's taken a village, and you know I'm happy with where we're at, but you know still feel like we have so much further to go. So I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with y'all.
You bet. Well, we're going to bother you down the road, so be ready.
I'm always available for you.
Okay, man. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks. That's Coach John Wanke, who's going to be headed to the tournament as the #1 seed in Central Ohio. We'll be back with more right after this. It's time for our weekly visit with Zach Fleer from 270 Hoops. And man, I'm telling you, Zach, this past weekend, there was stuff going on. And I know one of the games that was big, I saw you commented online, was right in your neighborhood, not that far away at Franklin Heights. So talk about the games that you had a chance to see this past week.
Yeah, so I'm actually using these next 2 weeks to kind of rest a little bit. So was going to do a Saturday game, ended up not doing it. So the only game I went to last week was Jonathan Alder in London on Friday, because we had talked about the Walnut Ridge Afrocentric game in the last episode. So that game at London was really good. Went to overtime. Alder had freshman, came off the bench, dropped 21 points. He and his brother, both, two freshmen that I think are going to be primetime players for them. But just was really, really impressed with Alder in that game. I mean, London fought really hard too. But it was, that freshman duo, him and his brother, Danny Bentley, and I think the other.
Oh, no.
Will Bentley, maybe. But
the Bentley boys, that's a traditional name out there. When I coached, when JA was in our league, there was a Bentley, Rod Bentley. I wonder, it's got to be Dad's kids there.
Has to be
Rod's sons.
But Danny Bentley, and his brother, they both came off the bench. Danny hit some big time shots, none bigger than a shot he hit. It was in regulation. Alder came down, hit a three to go up, or not Alder, but London came down, hit a three to go up 2 with, I think, like 50 seconds left. And then the Bentley kids bringing the ball down the floor, takes maybe 1 or 2 dribbles across half court, pulls up deep from 3, drains it. They took a 1-point lead. London ended up tying the game, and then they took over in overtime. But as a freshman on the road in, a first place game for your conference against a rival that beat you at home earlier in the year, to, score 21 points as a freshman and, hit 10 of 15 at the line. He was getting to the line at will. That was really impressive for any player to do that, but let alone a freshman. So Alder's going to be, a problem in D4. Both those teams are, 2 of the top 4 seeds right now in D4. So that was a good game. It was nice to get out, got some Cappy's pizza out in London before the game, and then covered it with Jason Morrow and Jake Spiegel. We were all together. It's like the one time this year where, I wasn't a videographer for once. So I just went back to my roots and took stats, wrote an article. So it was really cool.
Well, that's the whole crew out there. Are you guys allowed to be in the same place like that?
Yeah, we were. They let us somehow. Jake lives out.
Kept the executive branch separate most of the time.
Yeah.
It was a perfect meeting spot because, Jake lives, out in London, Madison Plains area. Jason lives in Dayton. And then, I'm on the west side. So it was about 40 minutes for Jason and I both. And it was cool. It was like old times, when I was just the writer and Jason would film the game and we'd go to the same games. So it was really cool.
And then what else were you paying attention to this last week? You may not have been there, but that you kind of kept your sights on.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to see how Reynoldsburg would bounce back after losing to DeSales. They had a game at Logan home against Logan on Friday night, won pretty comfortably, and then had a home win over Groveport on Tuesday night this past week, or this current week. So just wanted to see how they would bounce back. Wanted to see what Olentangy Orange, if they could keep that lead in the OCC, and they obviously did. And then, they got a couple of tough games this weekend. They're on the road Friday night at Orange, and then on the road at Pick Central. But the one game that really stood out to me this week, like you said, in the Open, just about 1.5 miles, 2 miles down the road from me, Franklin Heights taking down Bishop Reedy in double overtime. The Falcons did it without Kent Harrison, who was one of their senior transfers. So doing that without him, Noah Kershaw, we talked about, his dad, Torrey Kershaw, former West great. Noah had a big game, hit a big time 3 to send the game to overtime, and they ended up winning it in double overtime. So that's a big win for Franklin Heights. They're 12-6. They are right now, I think, seeded number 6 in D2. This is their first double-digit win season since 2014. So it's been a long time coming for the Falcons. So really excited for what they're doing, and beating a Reedy team that was 17-1 coming in. It's pretty impressive.
How about a little surprise in my mind was Hartley and Johnny Alder. You covered Jonathan Alder on Friday night, and then they turn around and they get to play the Hawks. And that was a quite a awakening. That just
Yeah.
shows you the strength of Hartley.
Hartley, when if you're playing Hartley and you don't have 6'7", 6'8" big man and dynamic guards, it's gonna be a long night. So that was the case for Alder. They had their way with London in that overtime win, but that backcourt for Hartley, it's a different beast. And then Marcus Hemphill is like the ideal high school undersized big man. He's only 6'3", 6'4", but plays a lot bigger than that. The couple games I've seen Hartley lose this year, it's against teams that have guards who can handle pressure, who can make shots and create off the dribble. And then, those teams usually have a big. So, Hartley and D3, they're the team to beat. They not only did they beat Alder, but they blew Watterson out last Friday too.
And
So,
they have been playing at a high level lately.
and that was, a week after a really tough schedule where they had to, take on Wanke Orange and Wyoming, who are, two of the better teams in the state. So, and D3, their team to beat locally.
What do you see going forward this week?
This week, Friday night, going up to Olentangy, watching the Braves take on Hilliard Darby. A win for Darby locks up the OCC for the first time since 2008. And, that in that 08 season, they actually beat Newark in their division, and then Newark went on to win the state. So long time coming. I'm happy for Chris Mall and that program. They won 4 games last year, from 4 to 15 games right now with, a few more games to play. It's really impressive. So they win tonight. They win Friday night. They will be outright OCC champs. They got a current 3-game lead over the rest of the division with 3 games to go. So 1 game, and then they're good to go. So hopefully they can do it on Friday.
Yeah, that'd be huge. Well, one of the things we talked about this week, we had John Wanke on from Upper Arlington on the girls' side, and they've been through their draw. So we got to hear a little bit about how he managed his draw coming out of D1 as the top team. Have you heard anything instructive that gives you an idea what the boys might do on their side?
The boys' draw is going to be super interesting. Really, because 2 of those district champs are going to go to Wittenberg. So it's the first time in a really long time that you've had a D1 district champ that is not going to play a regional game locally. But that's the case. And I think it'll dictate what those top 2 seeds do. I don't think Olentangy Orange and Reynoldsburg want to see each other in the regional round. I think both those teams are thinking that's the team that we're probably going to have to get through. It's probably the best team other than us in the state. And if I'm going to have to play them, I'd rather play them in the state semifinal round. So the interesting part about that is they have not announced the dates nor the locations of the state semifinals. It's dependent on the teams and where they can find a neutral site. Because of that, I think to ease, where a game might be hosted, because they haven't even told us what regional champion is going to play who in the state semifinals. So I don't know if that's known yet. I don't know if they put that out. Last I checked, they hadn't done that yet. So what could happen is maybe Orange goes to the regional in Wittenberg, and then they get Reynoldsburg in the state semifinal, and then that game's at the fairgrounds. So I think that's the most interesting part. And then again, in D1, you have 2 district final slots that are buys where you get a pass straight to the district finals. And we asked Coach Corbett, if you're a top seed, do you want that first round game at home, or do you want the extra rest and then you're going straight to a district final? I don't know. I feel like that's a slot that, because there are 2 interesting slots. The first one is Saturday morning at 10 a.m. The second one is Sunday, 6 p.m. And then you go to Wittenberg for your regional. So I feel like top 4 seeds may not choose that game. So you could have a team like Darby, maybe, that they're like, hey, we're going to get a slot right to the district finals. And at the very least, we're, district finalists for the first time in a long time. So
the girls, I don't know if you heard about Upper Arlington and Coach, what he decided to do. He was the number 1 seed, and he ended up taking he took a couple passes, and he finally ended up slotting himself. So he's going to Fairborn to play there. So if they win the district, they go there to the Dayton, Cincinnati / region, and he stays away from Central Ohio. And his mindset is maybe, I'm not trying to read too much into it, but everyone I've talked to has tremendous respect for Pickerington Central still. And so maybe he's trying to stay away from them, and he's looking at it as a way to get to the Final Four. So there's 4 in Central Ohio D1 that are going to be here, 1 going that direction.
Yep.
Now you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that is there 6 district champions for the boys?
Yeah, there's 6 in D1. There's 5 in D2.
I'm sorry, there's what?
There's 5 in D2. There's 6 in D1 and 5 in D2.
And that's not consistent with the number of. Wow. I mean, it sounds like it's not consistent with the number that are in for the boy or for the girls. So
Yeah,
the girls have 5.
I think
6.
we have. There's more D1 teams. There's more D1 teams than girls.
I get you.
Ohio.
Okay.
But that is going. I think that's going to be the most interesting part of the draw. Is I really think. I mean, it happened in girls. I think you're going to see it in boys. I've already had conversations with one of the head coaches at those 2 top 2 seeds, and they're like, "Hey, can you tell me who the best teams in Southwest Ohio are? Because I feel like there's tougher teams here locally, so we might end up going that direction."
Wow.
Well,
it's going to be that part's going to be fascinating just to see how they play that out for the first time. You know, I mean, and it may change the way people do it going down the road, but we'll certainly have a lot to look forward to. In fact, our next show, we'll have Coach Bates on from Afrocentric to talk to him about the draw, because that's a little different scenario in that you have a lot of good teams going for 2 slots, right, coming out of D5. And that gets back to the old days of how do you try to get out of here, and get to the regionals at all.
Yeah, D5, that's a freaking gauntlet.
Murderer's row.
Yeah, it really is.
Right now, I mean, these are the top. You got 18-0 Columbus Academy. You got 19-1 Afrocentric. You got 17-2 Bishop Hartley. You got 19-1 Fairbanks, and even 11-9 Harvest Prep, who
Don't sleep on the Prepsters.
They could be the best of those teams. You never know. So
yeah,
that's
it'll be interesting how that plays
teams will be a district champ.
I expect that there's going to be a few teams that pass before to see where Harvest Prep goes, just the respect that they have. And again, I said this earlier in our podcast, few sessions back, about I wonder how Coach Dennis is feeling now that he has battle tested his group to the level that he has with this. This has been an extremely challenging schedule that he's put together versus that schedule where he was living in the Mid-State League and having 12 nights. And I'm trying not to be disrespectful, but he had 12 pretty easy nights with the talent level that he had for a number of years. And this hasn't been that way whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So they're for 11-9, I bet you they have as much respect as any team in the state, especially D5. I mean, they just played Kaufman.
The schedule, I mean, their schedule's so tough that even with that record, they're still the 5 seed.
Yeah.
The RPI, because that opponent win percentage is so high. But the thing is like after you get to Harvest Prep, you got Fredericktown, who's the 6th right now in RPI, and then it just kind of falls off a cliff a little bit. North Union as the 7, they're 9-9, and then every other team after that is below 500 by at least 3 games. So it's so super top heavy, and then it kind of falls off a cliff a little bit. So again, though, you got 5, 6 pretty quality teams, and only 2 are going to be district champs. So I'm actually looking most forward to those D5 district final games. So because we have enough staff, I'm going to go up to Mount Vernon Nazarene for those 2 district finals.
Well, it's good that they're playing up there. We mentioned that earlier. They get to play up at Mount Vernon Naz. It's instead of in Central Ohio somewhere.
You could have just had the games at Ohio Dominican, and just move.
Yeah, exactly.
D6. I think D6 is at ODU. Why? D6 is more rural teams that would probably travel better to Mount Vernon.
Not a good call.
I can't imagine that if you have Harvest Prep Afrocentric playing, that you're going to get a giant crowd at Mount Vernon for those 2 teams. And even with Columbus Academy, they don't have a giant fan base either. So
Academy only showed up big when they played at our place. We'd go to their place and we would have more fans than they would. I mean, they're so spread out, their student population. Then they'd come to our place. It was like, why are they here when they're never at your place? It was like it was just backwards every time.
Great restaurants in Grandview. That's why.
There we go. That makes sense.
It. I won't tell you that. Yeah, I have a website for Grandview too, but I won't. That has nothing to do with that last comment. Hey, Zach, we're going to get you out of here because next week we're going to spend some extra time with you. We'll have a lot to talk about as we look at all 7 of the divisions and all those brackets. Because as you mentioned, 6 in D1, 5 in D2, Murderers Row coming out of D5. There'll be a bunch to talk about. So we'll let you get your rest and get ready and have fun out at Olentangy this week. And we'll look forward to that report, and we'll put the brackets up on the screen and go through them.
I know. I'm excited. This is District Final Saturday is my favorite. Or Final District Tournament Draw Sunday is like my favorite Sunday of the basketball season. And then
I'm glad
it's weird though because you have two weeks after that though that kind of feel like they don't matter a little bit.
It is a little weird, because they're still playing, but it'll give us a chance to break it down, and that'll be even more fun. So we'll take advantage of that. But thanks for jumping on, and safe travels wherever you're heading. And we'll look forward to talking to you next week about a whole bunch of stuff.
Sounds good, guys. Appreciate it as always.
All right, man. Take
Thank
care.
you, Zach. Appreciate it.
See ya.
Thanks to Just Hoops for sponsoring our show today. With facilities in Lewis Center in Dublin, you can level up your game today on 22 different hoops. In February, Just Hoops introduces the all-new Class Pass. It's a structure that allows more classes, more flexibility, more opportunity, and more development. No hidden fees or long-term commitment. Grab your Class Pass and join the classes that work for you. Learn more at justhoopscolumbus.com. Welcome back for our final segment of this week's CBUS Roundball Weekly. Kevin Rao and Ray Corbett. Good conversation, Coach, with John Wanke and his approach to this new world of 7 divisions and how you try to get. You're almost planning now when you're in divisions 1 and 2 for the regional, as opposed to the district final, wouldn't you say?
I'm going to have to be honest about that. That is something that, man, I stayed away from ever discussing. And it was very difficult. Even when we were really a competitive group, that we'd sit there and say, okay, let's don't jump ahead of ourselves here. And we always
I know, but you know what? I mean, you've got guys, there's going to be so many Central Ohio teams coming out. You kind of want to instead of picking your poison at the district level, you might be able to make a decision about, hey, if we make it to the state tournament, we might be playing somebody we already know.
So, so if we look at the changes, let's just real quickly look at the changes throughout the state. So again, for those of you who've lived in a castle or in a cave for the last few months, boys basketball, girls basketball, we now have 7 divisions versus 4. What was once 198 schools in Division 1, now they have 64. Division 2 has 64. Okay, so that means divisions 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, they're all going to have right around 134 teams versus the 200 or so teams that they were competing against. So there's your number breakdown. Why? That's another hour and a half speech we could get into. We don't need to. But with that, we also have, for the first time, 5 district champions, not 4. So before we would have 4 district champions. They would all play each other. We were guaranteed one team making it to the Final 4 in Division 1 Central Ohio. Now we have 5, which means we could have 2 teams that make it all the way to the Final 4. And so those years in which you have great Central Ohio basketball in Division 1, Division 1 for that matter, at least that's the case this year, you're looking at your number 1 seeded team, the Upper Arlington Golden Bears, decided to pass their way out of Central Ohio, staying away from fill in the blank.
I'm going to go with Pickerington Central.
It could be Pick Central, but who am I to discuss that? I'm not the guy to make that call, because I can tell you there's an Olentangy team, not Liberty, not Berlin, not orange, but Olentangy, the old-fashioned type, number 2 rated squad. Dublin Jerome's number 4. Grove City's number 3. And Grove City, if we go by the draw, should be playing number 1. So number 3, Grove City, number 1, Upper Arlington, playing for a site or a chance to go to Fairborn to play in the Southwest region.
Right.
Right,
Against the team from that Dayton, Cincinnati area, right?
Correct.
So,
Which means Pickerington Central, Olentangy, blah, blah, blah. Those 4 are going to be here. So we'll have 1 for sure, possibly 2. And so Coach must have looked around doing his homework and said, I've seen these teams out of that area. Central Ohio teams must be better or a better matchup for him to go elsewhere. But he decided, I don't want Columbus. I'm going outside of Columbus to play my regional if we get there. So Grove City, and a little sleeper in there, this Reynoldsburg Raider team, they just beat Grove City the other night. They're right around 500, but they've got people. And if those people show up on a given night, you never know what's going to happen with them. So the Raiders, I mean, that's a loaded district. That's all you can say. That's a loaded district. So the Bears are number 1 out of D1. In D2, and we talked about what's going on with Olentangy and what they're drinking up there with all the success. Here comes Big Wanted. Boys team's pretty good, 4th, 5th. Now the number 1 seed in this area is the Big Wanted Eagles. All right. Waterson's your number 4. Westerville South. They've been purring up there for quite a while. They're starting to play really well. They're number 2. Okay, so there you go. You've got some quality squads. Let's see here. Let's go to D3. D3. Out of the City League. The champion, the 2-time champion of the Northern Division of the City League. And they're going to have a game coming up, or I believe they got the Afrocentric game with them for the City League Championship. But Centennial is the number 1. And I have a little niece, great niece, my nephew's daughter, who is putting up huge numbers in the post for the Stars. Okay, so we're pretty excited. Hopefully,
like over 1,000 rebounds in her career, right?
That's a lot of rebounding.
That's a lot of rebounds.
That's a lot of missed shots too. So, anyways,
I suppose.
Granville's 2, and interesting. Granville had an opportunity to go opposite them instead. Granville's the bottom of that bracket. So you could see number 1 versus number 2 in that top bracket to get out of the district.
Well, Granville, good experience. They had a long run last year, so they know how to play tournament time. Yeah.
Let's get to D4. How about this? The Barons, Buckeye Valley, had a great year, and they are your number 1 seeded team. Another City League North team, International. They're the number 2 seeded squad. Okay. Let's see. Where are we at number 3? Where's number 3? Where's number 3? Where's number 3? I'm cheating somebody. It's not Johnny Alder. It's not the Bishop Reedy Silver Knights. East, because I've got London as my 4. So I've got 2. I've got 2 4s. That's it. London's 3 and Eastmore's 4.
Okay.
In that particular bracket. Sorry for the confusion. Hopefully it's accurate. All right. Every once in a while. Division 5, the Johnnies. All right. Basketball's traditional, isn't it? The Johnnies, they've had a phenomenal run at it lately. They're your number 1 seeded team. North Union, they've been strong on the girls' side. And then here's the one that I love. This is why when you have a computer determine based on their records and based on who they're playing, sometimes, in my opinion, things get a little thrown off kilter.
A little askew.
Who do you think was to play the 2-time state champions in the district finals? Because Afrocentric's your number 3.
I would say no one. at
Can you
all.
say pass, 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 pass?
Pass. Yes,
Wherever
absolutely.
Afrocentric goes, I'm jumping as fast as I can opposite them.
That
Okay.
in
And
a
so
big
all the
time
motion,
hurry.
yes. So Afrocentric of all teams, I'm sure they didn't play a challenging schedule this year. Okay. They never
Yeah.
do. All right.
Yeah.
But they're the number 3 seed. Okay. All right. Now we get to 6. Newark Catholic out of the Licking County League, Centerburg, and Harvest Prep. And when I looked at the bracket, it appears to me that people wanted to stay away from Harvest Prep because they play my beloved Bobcats, round 1, number 11 seed, number 10 seed in the district semis, and 6 and 7 to get out of the district. Whereas 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, and 9 are all in the Southern division, Southern bracket. So
that
all
would be that would be avoiding for sure.
If you could run, you ran.
Yeah.
All right. And that gets us to number 7. Fisher Catholic, who's had a great run recently. The Cardinal division in girls basketball in the Mid-State League has been outstanding. Bern Union had a 3 or 4 year run, and Fisher Catholic's taken it over. The Fisher Catholic's number 1. Delaware Christian is number 2. They're on the opposite brackets this year. Okay. And to be honest with you, it appears that most stayed away from Fisher because they have 14 and 11 to get to the finals. So they are going to have a pretty nice run at it to get to the district finals. And like I said, Delaware Christian's their number 2 there.
If you had to, without specifying which ones, how many of the 7 state champions will come from the Central District?
Okay. Ooh, that's a question there, Kevin.
There you go.
All right. I got to go number 1.
Okay.
I got to go number 1. And I have been loyal to Olentangy Orange all year long. And I am going to, and I hope this isn't putting a monkey, and I don't want anything like that, the kiss of death here. But I just feel like this is the year for them. 2 years.
You're talking about boys now.
I'm talking. You got
That's
me.
okay. No.
Yeah.
Keep going with boys. Keep going with boys.
No. I won't go, boys. I'm going to stick with the girls.
Okay. So let me rephrase that question then. Okay.
Cool. All right.
So of the girls' 7 divisions, now that you see the brackets and you get a feel for who is really, who the ones are, but who also are the ones that people might be a little afraid of. How many of the 7 girls division will the champions will be from Central Ohio?
Put me on the spot because I can become a very unpopular.
Well, you know what? You can change it. We got weeks before we get.
No. I'm ready to go here because you know what? I'm a gutsy guy.
Man. I'm
a gutsy guy. I've got a half at 1 because I got Pick Central up there.
Okay.
Right? And I live in Arlington, so I'll probably have egg on my house. On my front door here tomorrow.
That's okay. You don't even have to tell me the team if you don't want to. If you
no.
Okay.
I am already down to.
But
5.
you think that there will be a Central Ohio champion coming out of Division 1?
I'm thinking we got a prayer at 1.
Okay.
I think we've got a very good prayer at 5.
Yeah.
Hey, until you beat the queen, she's still the queen.
Absolutely.
You got to knock the queen off. Okay. And man, I might have to go a little bit with the Fishers down there.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I got a feeling about them. Yeah.
Category here for the last few years. I think they've got a prayer.
Yeah. So we're talking about 1, 5, and 7. You feel good about at the moment.
Those are the 3 that if I was going to Vegas, which I don't because I don't want to be a Gamblers Anonymous kind of guy here. But if I was going to Vegas, those would be the ones I'd look at the odds boards on them.
Well, we'll talk about the others next week, who we think will come out maybe and have a chance in the boys' 7 brackets. Now, what's interesting, the boys, when we talk next week, they've got 6 district champions coming out of Central Ohio in Division 1.
Yes. Yeah.
Crazy.
That'll blow my mind. I'm confused already, and I'll be confused. I don't even know what to do. Okay.
Well, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward already to next week when we break down the brackets. On the boys' side, we'll be talking to Coach Bates out at Afrocentric as well. I do want to just a couple of quick announcements for everybody. We are relaunching the website, cbussports.com, on February 18th, with just about our 2-year anniversary from the day that we started that website. And we're trying to retool a little bit and, try to keep up with the trends. And so we'll be relaunching that. It will include some more interviews that Ray did with a couple other coaches around town. We'll be adding those along with our weekly deal and just a lot of coverage of everything going on around Central Ohio. So we hope that you will take a look at that. Again, that's on Tuesday the 18th when we'll relaunch that. And in the meantime, we'll keep doing our thing here, and we'll release some of those great interviews that you had this summer as we kind of get back to it. I know you're looking forward to that, as am I. The big one, of course, with your brother. I've already started, editing that down, and that's one of my favorites ever. So I think people will really enjoy that and the influence he had on your career. And, there's a little special thing that happens during that interview that I think people will want to tune in for. So I don't want to spoil it, but a lot of stuff going on, Coach. We're going to keep it rolling and just keep, getting bigger and bigger. And as we say, resettle this whole thing and relaunch it and see if people like what we're doing. But I know we're getting a nice response from this program, and we'll continue to do that. And then when we run out of road on that, we'll find something else to do. So, we'll have some fun.
Well, it's been enjoyable so far, and it gives us an opportunity to talk what we like to talk about. Absolutely,
and highlight. It always comes back to the fact that these high school kids deserve the coverage. They work hard. As we see print media dwindle and, the emphasis not be on these guys, even though there's some great writers out there. I don't want to disparage a couple of good friends over at the Dispatch who are still doing this good work. We want to try to highlight what we can and add to it. And we'll just keep on doing that. So, hey, thanks for this week, man. A lot of good information out there.
It's been a good week. Been some great games. There's some great games coming up. And looking forward to this weekend, and I got to throw out. No, you know what? I'll wait for my sleepers in the boys' side.
Okay.
For district championship games and such. That's something I'm looking forward to do because there's some teams that middle of the pack kind of squads that are maybe starting to play a little better now and such. So looking for those kind of trends.
That's our teaser for next week. So there you go. Hey, thanks, man. Be safe down there in Florida, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.